Oh, I like yogurt.
Oh, okay.
But the salt. Like, do you eat peanuts when you drink beer? Do you eat, pretzels?
Yeah.
Right, so it's the salt in the beer, it's the salt in the yogurt.
You just salt this cookie.
You do what?
You just
Couldn't
salt
you
your
just salt
yogurt?
whatever you're eating?
No, well, I do. Sometimes I put salt in beer. My doctor doesn't like that. So,
A little lime too, I assume.
huh?
A little lime in that beer.
You know what? I'm not a big lime fan.
Those are the plain ones? Get the ones with everything on it. That's not.
Well, that's too much for my stomach.
Is it?
Yeah. Last year at this time I could have eaten them. This year I can't eat them.
That character's name Goins, that high school kid from Owasso you talked about
No,
last
James.
week?
I'm just, what position did Reggie Barnes play?
It was Reggie.
It was Reggie Barnes?
You know why? Because wasn't he a linebacker?
Very Lewis.
Reggie Barnes was a defensive end at OU.
But he played at Jinx. He also
Ground career.
played like a backup running back or something. I'm almost sure. I don't know where he is. We need to find him. He'll remember me falling on my knees and not tackling him, I'm sure. But he was, it was the twos because I was in the backup safety. And he was running with the twos, and he's a big guy. And he was coming out. I was like, yeah, this is not good. I'm almost sure it was Reggie, and he was like a down-the-line running back for him or something. But he started on defense.
Different Reggie Barnes.
Could be. I don't know anymore. I'm just trying to get straight for tomorrow. So, all right, I'm ready. What do you got?
What did their eyes look like last night?
Who?
What did their eyes look like?
Our guys?
Yeah.
Oh, they're we're on a pass-fail system, right, each week. I mentioned that. So we got a fail for last week, and so nobody likes that. But these the good thing about this generation, without getting in a long, drawn-out deal, they kind of roll through things pretty quick. They're pretty resilient, and, like the phones, they're on to the next video, and they roll. And we had a couple guys do a good job with leadership last night. My job is to tell them the truth or give them my opinion. I can not be accurate, but I give them my opinion on what transpired and then what has to happen as we move forward. That's really what we do.
Anybody that you'd like to name in terms of who was good in leadership?
Brock Martin actually said a few words. JT did a good job. Spencer always does a good job. Preston Wilson, with some guys, said they run on Sunday nights, and it's a difficult run. So when you win, it's a fun run. When you lose, it's even more difficult. But some guys step up and do a good job leading.
How important is that at this point of a season where you've got more disappointment than you hoped you would at this point?
Well, they have to do it. It's their team. It's not me. All I do is tell them the truth and give them my opinion, and then they can do what they want with it. And then we try to guide them to the next game as coaches. But they have to decide they want to practice hard. And it's important to them because if we don't play, I don't play. And I think they understand that. And that is not a concern of mine, but it's important because they have to decide they want to do it.
I'm curious about Mason Cobb because he's really come on during the course of the year in his ability as a player. He's kind of a quiet kid, but it looks like he's trying to peak that leadership, trying to stretch himself to kind of do some of that. Do you see that?
Oh, some of it. He's in his first year. He's just trying to find where he's at on the field right now and trying to run and make plays. He has to play 70-plus plays a game, so there's a fatigue factor involved there. And he's trying to learn different things going on, working hard of wrapping up. He strikes with force, but he's not conquered wrapping up and getting guys down. So, in Utah in high school, he hit those guys, he knocked them 3 yards back and they fell on the ground. Well, that doesn't work that way at this level. So the combination of all that, he's working toward that, should be considerably different in October of next year. Things will move a little slower for him.
That first quarter, everything happened kind of fast. After watching the film, did anything surprise you? Did anything stand out that you didn't realize on the field?
Not really. They got us in a couple of man coverages, made good throws, and Stoops made good catches. And then offensively, the early scores allowed them to dial up pretty much anything they wanted to do on defense. because we were backed up and weren't moving the ball at all, so it gave him a lot of freedom.
What is your assessment of the offensive line after watching the video? Did it change after post game?
Well, ironically, we had the guy that's graded the highest the last few weeks has been Brooks, and he didn't grade out because he didn't play. A couple of the guys that graded lower graded higher in this game. So I don't have an answer for you. I mean, I'm being honest with you.
You guys threw it 7 straight times, I think. Was that kind of the game plan going into?
What's that?
You guys threw it, I think, 7 straight times at the start of the game. Was that kind of the game plan going in, or was that because you were down?
Well, we do a lot of RPO stuff, so it's based on the look. So maybe 30% of the time we dictate that. The other rest of the time, just like OU, they're an RPO team. So the defense dictates run pass.
Coach, I know you guys talk a lot about discipline. I don't remember exactly where it was. I think it was in the second quarter. Nathan Latu gets that, I think it was unnecessary roughness, comes off to you, and then you kind of give it to him. What was said in that conversation with him?
Well, the truth is we talk about this all the time, that one, we all know the second guy gets caught, okay? So he's sticking up for his buddy. He's sticking up for Zero. And he's explaining to me that they did this to Zero, and that's why I did it to him. And I explained to him, doesn't make a difference who they do that to, okay? Cobb has a helmet on. He's got pads on. He cannot hurt him. He's going to be just fine. Don't take it personal. That's just lack of discipline. I love his competitive nature. He's more in the games now since the other guys are hurt, so he plays more. So his competitive nature's coming out. I like that, but not in this culture. That's not what we do here. They're going to snap the ball again. You get a chance to go fire away at him and have all the fun you want. And I just told him that, and he said, yes, sir, I apologize. I said, don't apologize to me. You need to apologize to the guy on the field that walked down 15 yards, your defense. I just want you to keep your composure and play real football. All the sideshow stuff, I'm not much for it.
How has he played since he's kind of?
He's played pretty good. He's learning, and sometimes he'll get banged around a little bit, but he's active and he's competitive. He'll fight. Like we need fighters. When guys want to fight, he fights, so he'll be fine.
When Jacob asked about the offensive line, he said, I don't have an answer for you. Does that make it more frustrating that this late in the year, it's hard to tell who's going to play well, who's not going to play well?
They're just inconsistent in areas. That's all I was saying. Brooks graded out the highest the last 2 or 3 weeks. I think. I don't know how many weeks it's been. And then a couple of the guys that didn't graded out better in this game. So we need them to all come together. We need them to all play well and function. And as you know, we need to be able to rush the ball a little bit. And it'd be nice if we can get Dominic back at some point. To put them all together. Let's get them all out there and let them go and go play.
And Mike, with the senior day on Saturday, I know what Spencer does is a little bit up in the air, but with veteran guys being honored, wanted to ask you sort of about his impact, not only on the field, but you talked about him being one of those leadership guys. When you think about overall just the imprint he's left, what stands out to you about him?
I think that the fans are going to remember him a long time as a tough guy. His competitive nature, plays injured, he fights. He took more hits Saturday, right? I mean, I'm sure all you guys now are cringing for me when he runs and takes hits instead of sliding. But that's who he is. That's why we like him. That's why the team respects him. And he didn't play as good as he would have wanted to, but we didn't rush the ball, and we protected him very below average. That's what you get. So he forced a couple throws that he should have just said, you know what, it's okay, we can kick a field goal or punt. That's a difficult thing for a quarterback to understand. They always try to make a play. But his legacy will be his toughness, his long-term ability to play. I don't know how many games he's played in now. Somebody knows, 50-something? I don't know what it is. Between him and the guy from West Virginia, the defensive lineman, has been there since the 70s. When I turned the film on, I didn't even know he was still playing. He's playing again this year. I think he's got, 55 starts or something? But that's what people are going to remember him, man. He's just been there for all the time for 5 years.
Talking about Saturday, with not having Dom, run game's fairly non-existent, offensive line struggling. Spencer had his struggles, but considering all of that around him,
He just keeps going.
He was actually pretty darn successful. He kept you guys in that game almost
No, you're right.
single-handedly.
And I joke about it. And we talk, the offensive line, they know it. They know they need to come together as a group. They know they're switching positions, but nobody cares about that anymore. I mean, go play, make plays. Okay, we know you're playing guard one week and tackle the next. I'm sorry, life's not fair sometimes. So they all know that. It's not something they don't know, and they understand it. And I'm not being critical of them because they're critical of themselves. But when you have that and then a couple things go on, and Spencer never says a word. He just keeps playing. Like he's gone through another year. Last year he went through not having any wide receivers available really all year, till the end. And then this year with what's going on up front and then the in and outs of wide receivers, and he never once says a word to anybody. Never. He just keeps playing. And that's what's important. That's a product he's a great product of this culture. He just keeps playing.
So when you guys were recruiting him, you knew you were getting a good quarterback, but did you know that you were getting that part of his game?
They talked about that at the school, but we don't get a lot of really accurate information anymore from schools. So the world we live in recruiting is extremely difficult because used to be 100 years ago, coaches would go in and sit and talk to Coach Evans and Coach Huggins and Coach Tribble and Coach Smith, all the guys at Middle City High School, and they would tell you about DeQuazy, whoever you're recruiting. Now you don't get really good, accurate information, so you have to dig deeper. But the guys that coached him down there had been around a long time in Texas, and so we got some quality information, and one of the things that they said about him was if it was his choice, he would play safety and quarterback every game. And so that is a pretty good example of what we got.
When you talk about not getting accurate information, why do you think that is? Is it coaches just not telling the full truth or what?
Oh, I think we live in a society where people, teachers, coaches, parents, administrators can't really talk about things that may potentially say something that's not good about a kid, or they ended up potentially in a lawsuit or out of a job. Can't tell the truth anymore. The only person that does it's me in these media deals. I mean, you can't do it. I mean, you go in to see Joe Blow over here at some high school 6A powerhouse in Tennessee, and you go in there and the coach says, "Yeah, this guy's a good player and all that, but he ain't very tough, and I don't know if he really likes football." I know everybody's recruiting him, and then that gets out. Quarterback club might can him.
But that's something for you as a coach that you probably like. You like coaches being honest?
I got to have good quality information. So we want to be able to go out and recruit the men that fit in this culture. But we need good quality information. It's difficult to find that information nowadays because of counselors, teachers, principals, coaches' fear of somebody in the local neighborhood might find out I said something that might not be as appealing about a young man, and instead of just promoting and selling him. That's just a fact. We have to do a better job of recruiting, digging into details. But I was giving her an example with Spencer. When the coaches told me he wanted to play free safety and quarterback, that gave me a pretty good indication he's a tough guy.
Besides that, Mike, they limit the number of availabilities your assistants have with the kids and their family. It's kids can fool you if it's only 2 or 3 times they meet you, but back in the old days where you were able to go in every week and spend some time, at least your assistants were.
You want me to give you another Mike Gundy prediction that'll come true?
Yeah.
I hit him all the time. The college football is going to turn into the NFL. You're going to have a scouting service just like they do in the NFL. So our group, Todd Bradford and all of our people that work for him, are going to be like the NFL someday, where they're on the road and watching games live. They can go watch a young man 5 times. That's where you learn about him, right?
Yes.
You don't learn about him. We got all the video in the world. I can pull up every game that was played last Friday night.
See what they're like on the sidelines.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the NFL does that. They invest millions and millions and millions of dollars into a young man, and they still miss sometimes. But they're here all the time watching games live. I don't know if the fans know that, but NFL scouts go watch college games live, and then they watch them practice. So they try to get a good idea before they invest $25 million in a kid. Eventually, college staffs are going to have a recruiting staff that goes out and watches guys play, in my opinion. Then it will also allow the assistant coaches to be with the current team that they're coaching and helping tutor academically and athletically during the season, which is where they should be, instead of out on the road recruiting on Thursday and Friday nights. Because these are like our own kids, and we should be with them all the time, not leaving them at home. So eventually that's going to happen. And you guys can say I told you that in 3 or 4 years. But they'll happen eventually. Because we're already paying these recruiting staffs now. What's the difference? And they're unlimited, right? There's some SEC schools that have 20 to 25 guys on their recruiting staff.
How much of that has been talked about among you guys?
Very little, but I'll be honest with you. You guys probably have meetings where you get together as staff. These meetings I go to, when there's 10 or 12 people in a room, I don't even listen because nobody's paying attention. And most things that we do are decided by presidents, a committee of university presidents and athletic committee. Coaches really don't have much say-so in any of that. They say we do, but we don't really have much say-so. But I think that's where it's going to go because it's such an expensive side of it, Barry. These recruiting staffs that some of these schools have is expensive. I'm talking about multi-million-dollar a year investments. So they might as well be out recruiting and then bring that information back to the staff. And then when the season's over, the staff can go out and talk to these kids face-to-face and talk to their parents. But we don't really have time to go watch them play. So we have to trust the 5 or 6 people that are out and get their opinion and then move forward. I think that's eventually what's going to happen.
Do you remember a few years ago, Southern Miss hired one full-time staffer. He used all the availability.
He was out every
and
day.
He was out all the time.
Mm-hmm.
He never coached the team. He just went out on the road looking for players.
Right. That's what I'm talking about.
That sounds actually pretty beneficial, doesn't it? I mean, that's
Both ways.
People aren't comfortable with the college game becoming more like the pro game for a lot of reasons. I get it, but here's a case where if you cut the BS and just did it like maybe you should, freeing you up and your staff up to do what you were hired to do. Well, you're hired to do a lot of things, but you know what I mean?
Well, no, you're right. What you're saying is right. So even more so than ever, we talked about this with mental health, okay? More so than ever, the guys on our team need us around them all the time. That's our job. And when we scatter on a Thursday night and a Friday and show up and go play a game Saturday, we're not around as much. And you can say, well, they're big kids, figure it out. That's true. But on a little smaller scale, it's no different than you want to be around your children when you're raising them. You want to be there to help them make good decisions, or when they need help to talk to them, or when they're hurting. It's the same thing. So it would be good for the recruits, their families, and for the coaching staffs if that was taken care of. Then everybody has a job.
Do you see any roadblocks if that happens?
Well, there's always roadblocks when you're trying to get things through an administrative group of people based on they're having issues right now with who's actually going to govern big-time Power 5 football. Because nobody is right now, right? That's why we're in the situation we're in. So there's discussions going on right now as who's going to police all this, who's going to govern it, who's going to make the decisions. And they're having issues because some of the committees they have that are making these decisions and on these rules have people on them that don't have a representative at a big Power 5 conference football school, when we know that that's really what's driving the train. And so until they get that, whoever that may be, they're going to always have administrative difficulties, in my opinion. Like, I don't make decisions on the rowing team at New Hampshire, and I wouldn't want to. And I love watching rowing in the Olympics, but I don't know anything about rowing, so I would not want to make a decision on that. So they're going to have to form a committee of to me, a committee of more than 3 people is a bad decision, because if you get more than 3 in there, nobody can make a decision. But let's just say it's 5. And they need to have Power 5 conference football backgrounds. Let them start to make the decisions on the things that are important, right? Portal, NIL, rules, and some sort of cap for staff across the country. Because if they don't start capping the staff, there's going to be coaching staffs that have 80 people on it eventually over the next 5 to 10 years.
Who would you want on that committee? Hypothetical.
I can give you some ideas. Bob Stoops needs something to do. He'd be good on it. Let's see, guys like that. I don't know. There'll be other guys that have been head coaches, and they've had to make administrative decisions in a lot of different areas, but they've also been around the players, and they know the rules. Okay? Those guys could be really good influence. It's like Coach Beamer at Virginia Tech. I mean, he'd be a great one. He's been around 100 years, and he gets it. He knows it. He knows the players. He knows rules. Those kind of guys would be very influential and make good quality decisions at some point, in my opinion.
Could you ever see yourself down the road being on that committee?
Hopefully not for a long time. I don't know what you're hinting at there. But early in my career, I thought no way. But I think that we're in a very traumatic, volatile time right now in college football, and there needs to be really good decisions made to protect this game if we're not careful. That's my opinion. So at some point, if I could help that to try to get this thing back on track, I think it would be important.
I think you need some media people on it.
Media people? Yeah.
Saturday's game, your thoughts, and you get a West Virginia team that they truly have had a disappointing.
Well, they've played good at times. They're like everybody else in this league. The only team that it really has been able to avoid anything has been TCU. They've been able to find a way to convert at the last second or whatever. The other teams in this league have been vulnerable each week, but then have shown signs of playing pretty good. And really, they fall in the same category. There's times when you watch them on tape, they're playing as good as most teams in this league, and then there's times I'm sure that Neil would wish they would play better, like our team.
I've always enjoyed dealing with Neil Brown. I mean, he's been nice to me in the media. He's been under fire. I mean, it's been a tough year for him.
Well, he's a first-class guy. The conversations I've had with him at the meetings and before games and wherever else, the minimal times I've run into him, he understands family, he understands culture, he understands taking care of the right people and doing things the right way from a distance, in my opinion. Obviously, I don't know him real well, but that's what I see with him. And our profession is difficult based on a variety of things that can happen. And so I just have a lot of respect for him as a person. And, I hate that anybody has to go through whatever somebody could be going through.
Did you see how TCU beat Baylor?
I was watching the game. That was right before our pregame meal, and so I was very rare I get to do that, but I watched the game. I mean, I say the game, the end of the game.
That was letter perfect in a really crazy situation. You guys have done something like that?
We've had hurry field goals, unless Baylor would have laid on the guy that got tackled. They didn't lay on him. So what if they lay on him because you can't make him get up. So what if they're laying on him for 5 or 6 seconds? Could have been real interesting. So those things worked out great for him. Those things you practice, we practice. And there's a certain time on the clock that you feel like that you can run a play and then still have enough time to get in and get out. But we have to work on a lot of things. Like, for example, sometimes when we practice it out here in the spring, kicker's running on and he gets hit by a defensive player, knocks him back. I mean, seriously, you got to think about those things. And then he tries to recover, and then he gets out there later, and a lot of things can happen. But that one fit their season so far. It was well done.
Do you think they squeezed it?
Well, time-wise?
Running that last run?
Well, there's a couple things. I mean, he asked a question, and what if he runs for 10 more yards?
Coach, why couldn't Baylor have delayed their substitutions? TCU had subs.
Exactly.
Right.
So now we're going to get into this deep. So this is good stuff, though. What if he runs 10 more yards, and then Baylor lays on him? The officials cannot. There is not a rule that says when you have to get up. So if he runs 10 more yards, and then they lay on him, then they try to get on, Now, the interesting thing is it'd be if you could get some truth serum to Coach Dykes and to the running back or somebody on their staff, did he go to the middle of the field and stay located there on purpose? If so, that's pretty good. But for a running back to do that, it's not the easiest thing to do. We don't run to certain places unless we're coached to do it. So if all that was coached, it's really, really good. But if he runs for 10 more yards, okay, for example, if your defense is going out there and you're able to say, hey, if he starts running, just let him run. Just don't let him cross the goal line. And he runs down there another 10, 15 yards and they lay on him, you might not ever get the kickoff. Now, to answer your question, there is no substitute rule in a hurry field goal situation. So when they subbed, you're talking about the old, okay, we're going to get our group on. In a hurry field goal situation, when they run on the field, you better run on with them because there is no stopping it. And if you're late coming out or you're late getting off, you will actually get a flag. Yeah.
Mike, I'm told that the Big 12 has let you guys know that. Greg Burks and those guys.
The one I just talked about?
Yeah,
Yes. We've known that.
Last play of the halves, out the window.
We've known that for several years. We had a situation like this. I can't remember, but it's been several years. And so we've had that discussion that in a hurry situation, they're not going to let a team lose a game because you're slow coming on the field. And they shouldn't, right? I mean, the substitution deal is an issue that we have to deal with for college football to make better. You certainly don't want this going on a last-second field goal. So I think that's a good rule.
TCU making the Big 12 title game, another team that hasn't been there often, and K-State with a chance to get there. I don't think they've been there at all since they reinstituted the game. What does that mean for the Big 12 to have new blood in there? Like
there's a lot of parity. And we've talked about this. I don't want to waste anybody's time, but the portal and the NIL has thrown everybody in a bag, and you can just shake it up. That's what's happened. My job is to look at everything all the time, but like some of the things that we've gone through this year would be a little different if the portal wasn't in place. We would have had a little different thing. It'd be different, but it is in place. Now they're going to reel it back in. It's going to go away, but right now it's in place.
Is it good for like TCU where you were last year? You had a shot to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Been great for the conference if you'd have made it.
That's right.
What would it do for the conference if they made it?
Yeah, at the point they're at now, we should want them to be able to try to get in there, and it elevates them and it elevates everybody at the postseason and all along, so on and so forth. And I mean, for what they've been able to do, like they've been behind in the fourth quarter in 6 games, right? Is that right, or 5? And to come back and do that, and then what you were just talking about, so they've put themselves in that position to kind of finish it all for whatever you want to call it. But yes, we always we want each other to do good when we're not playing against each other.
Jaden Bray, he's played in 3 games this year. You guys have 2 games left. He could still redshirt. Is there a thought to sit him one of these games for that reason? Or
he got hurt and he's out, so he is redshirting. He's out for the year.
Coach, something I noticed just kind of coming here.
That was an easy answer, wasn't it?
West Virginia is 21 for 30 on 4th down conversions, and I know a lot of teams in the Big 12 go for 4th down conversions. With numbers like that, does it make it easier for you guys to game plan for that scenario?
Well, we need to have a 4th down plan. So we talked about this 5-6 weeks ago, or I guess now it's been longer than that, right? However long ago we played Baylor, because remember Baylor was a 4th down team, and you might have brought it up. Somebody brought it up, but we have to have 4th down call sheets now, unlike what we've had to have in the past.
Does it feel like you've found your punter of the future? Logan Ward is
doing good, isn't he? Yeah. We were awful the last couple of games with what we were doing protection-wise and all that. We didn't do a good job, but we altered some things and with what we hope fits his style of punting, and we were better. Yeah, he did a nice job.
Is it that much different than Tom's Australian style?
100%. Yeah, 100%. Because there's no movement. So there's no moving pocket. Like Tom could run over here and punt, run over here and punt, stay straight ahead and punt, walk over here and punt. So there's really no target for a team to attack him in. And when you're in this style of punter, you're pretty much located in the same spot. So it's different. And we hopefully we've got our protection adjusted now where we'll be better at what we got away with poor coaching against Iowa State and got one blocked and very well could have cost us the game.
Coach, final home game of the season, first season back on the new turf for you guys. This year, NFL players have been speaking out about getting rid of synthetic turf, going to natural grass due to injury concerns. Have you felt a difference from your team when they're playing on natural grass versus turf? And if you could, would you have a choice of which one you'd like?
I saw a little bit of that. Somebody sent that to me, and I have said that I think this new surface is safer than grass. Now, I haven't done the studies. I haven't done any research, so don't pin that on me. But we have played on grass surfaces where we've slipped a lot, where guys slip a lot. And I have been really concerned about that. And these new surfaces, even in wet conditions, if you guys watch, you don't see people slip much based on the stuff they use now. So I don't know about the NFL. I don't know what all is going on there. I just know that to me that this surface that we use is really, really good. Now, somebody else is going to have to do all the research. And I don't know that we have enough years of service on this to get a quality number, right? I mean, it's like the FDA, approving a new drug. It takes like 8 years of studies. So I don't know that we've had enough years of service on this, but I know that we don't hardly ever slip on these surfaces. So.
One last question on last week.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever put in a Music City Miracle type play? Because I just don't see that very often. They throw across the field on kicks.
Well, that one was more of not the desperation. That was kind of a planned one. It was really a good play. That's a nice thought. So we have. I don't know if I'm giving somebody down there too much credit. I hate to give anybody that wears that color credit, but we had the guy that's playing that spot for us. That's job is to watch that. That's the fourth guy that's played that spot this year, and he's new, and so somebody might have figured that out, and then he was bending too much, and he has to have vision over there, and so if they figured that out and realized it was somebody new and all that, then credit to them. That's a smart play. Now, we see that play quite a bit where the guy goes and lays down in the end zone, or fades off to the sideline and tries to hide. But they brought him over almost in a return mode to about the middle of the field. We still should have known, like the guy running down. If it would have been the guy that it normally is, I think he would have seen it because he's aware of that. But new guys, they don't figure that out. And so it was a nice play, well designed.
Get inside a coach's head. Tell me why you use that play when you're up 28-3. Seemed like you'd save that for a time when you needed it a little bit more.
Just because of what I said, the next team might not provide them that opportunity. So, and they practiced it, and they felt like that the guy that we had checking the backside, they're like, hey, this guy's just started playing. I mean, he's, maybe we can get this. And he was bending on the play without having vision of his leverage. And so they might feel like, I don't know, who do they play this week? OU. They might feel like Tech doesn't give him that play, like they've watched it and they're like, the other guy stays wide, so we might as well use it. That'd be my guess.
Mike, go back to something Jenny asked a little earlier about Spencer and senior day. What sort of reception do you anticipate him getting from the crowd?
Oh, people love him. I mean, everybody loves a warrior, and that's what he is. I mean, he's a gladiator, and people like that, and they'll be excited, but sad to see him leave.
Another one of your seniors is Tanner Brown.
Mm-hmm.
I know he was a guy that what I understand, you guys basically brought him here to be a kickoff specialist. I don't even think he kicked field goals at UNLV the year before he came.
I mean, he really brought himself. We didn't even have, he and Whedon, it worked out good. But he kind of brought himself and, has developed into being a really, really good player.
Is it impressive to see a guy have that kind of
Those guys, I tell you all the time, they train themselves. Like they'll video themselves and send it off to somebody that's a kicking specialist and, I don't know how they do all this stuff, but they all take care of themselves. They live in their own little world. And, Hembro, I think Hembro's going to play in the pros as a snapper. And it's the snappers and the punters hold for the kickers, and then the kickers are the backup punters, and they're all his buddies. There's like 6 of them. They travel around together, and they're all buddies. And Tanner's come in here, and we did not know what we had when he came here as far as kicking.
We've been talking about your offense, what you can do this year, all the situations that have occurred. But long term, what can you do for your offense? Because you've been on a sort of a gradual decline the last 2 or 3 years. What can you do to get your offense back where it was?
Yeah, we're. I got a lot of notes in my office, and there's a couple things that maybe we need to do differently than what we've done over the last 15 years schematically, but not a lot. Most offenses, as we know, are going to live and die with your quarterback. And then secondly, they're going to live and die with a game breaker at wideout and running back. Then the guys up front, unless you're like OU's offensive line is pretty good. I mean, they're good. I don't think they're where they were a couple years ago. All those guys now are playing in the pros, but they're pretty dang good, okay? A lot of the other schools, if your linemen will cover guys up and they'll fight and they'll be tough guys, and you have a quarterback that can make a play and then a skill kid and a running back, you're going to have good offensive numbers. And we've not had that luxury outside consistently all year and in the backfield also. And that's one of the contributing factors. So the answer to your question would be schematically we can do a couple things differently, but we don't need to do a lot. And we certainly don't want to panic. We just need to get back into the flow. But we're going through, this is a couple years now where we've just not been able to put it together, up until this point. And then, we go out in the Fiesta Bowl and, we run 600 yards of offense on Notre Dame. I mean, so it's been, to say the least, a little inconsistent for me also. But we have some answers, yes. Stay tuned at November of next year.
Hey, you mentioned Matt Hembro, kid from Illinois. Did you bring him here as a long snapper? Did he develop into a long snapper?
He came on his own. Those guys are aware that they can come here and walk on, and if they end up doing it, they get put on scholarship and shows up on his. I mean, we knew that he was a good player, but not like that. I mean, we didn't. It's hard to know when you have a young kid that he's going to be like that good. Like, he's really good.
What's he done to get really good?
I don't know. You'd have to ask him, and it'd be good to ask him. That'd be a good story. He's a great kid. And I'd like to know. I've never asked him. I didn't want to mess him up. But they do it on their own. Robert's kid did it. Zach did it. I don't know how they do all that. And they train, and people watch them. They send a video to some guy in Dallas that teaches deep snappers. And they have their routines and what they do. Now, I will say this for him, bro. He developed himself with Coach Glass big time. Changed his body completely, which obviously has helped him a lot.
You say you've brought these special teams guys, or they kind of come in on their own. Have you changed how you recruit those guys over the last couple of years?
Well, we recruit a certain number of scholarships for those 3 positions. And in most cases, it's when one goes out, we'll bring one in. We don't recruit them every year. Because most years, you're going to finish the year with your deep snapper, your punter, and your kicker. Now, this year, we haven't had much luck with injuries, and we even got our punter hurt, which is pretty rare. But you can't stack those guys up. Well, I guess you can, but we don't stack them up numbers-wise, because if they're not kicking or punting or deep snapping, most of the time they're not on the field. So it's not a good numbers game. You know what I'm saying?
At the same time, you've got to be. You can't just hope Tanner Brown shows up. You got to go identify.
We have to have an idea.
Walk-ons, right?
Yeah. So like last year, I think he's at another school. I don't think anybody cares anymore. We don't even have an NCAA rules. The kid, young man down at Marlowe, didn't he go to Iowa State? Yeah, we were trying to get him to walk on here. Like we go after those guys to promote, to show them what we have and all that. And he ended up going to Iowa State. I think they scholarshiped him. But we were trying really hard. He was a quarterback, a really good basketball player, good athlete, good mom and daddy, good people. We thought he'd be good for our culture. And then I think they scholarshiped him.
In the spirit of Thanksgiving, what is your favorite side dish for Thursday?
I'm a big, I don't really, Thanksgiving I like to do the side stuff. I don't like to eat all the turkey and ham and waste my time. So the green bean casserole, any kind of potatoes. My sister does good sweet casserole something. Sweet potato casserole.
Oh, that's good. I love that.
Good. She does marshmallows. Yeah. Hold on, I got some good stuff here. Broccoli casserole. My sister's girls are health nuts, so they do like fruit and all that stuff. You put it on your plate and you walk by and you dip and you knock it off. Right? I mean, you don't want to be on Thanksgiving eating, healthy, right? So I don't waste any time. Mashed potatoes and gravy. I don't waste any time with meat. Who? Oh, yeah. Mix some stuff in it. So, I had a good story. We had one family member that used to take like the cranberry sauce and like a Jell-O deal, and then like whatever's in the refrigerator, just dump it in and stir it all up and let it, like it might be crackers, it could be carrots, whatever. And that was definitely like the stuff that got slid over to Cousin Eddie. It's like, yeah, he'll eat it and let him do it, But all the side stuff is good stuff. Yeah, you certainly don't want to eat healthy on Thanksgiving and Christmas. And then there's always, well, you guys might not have this, but there's always 2 or 3 people in the family that drink too much, right? They're like, they go straight for the wine and all that. But anyway, my sister's husband is a hotel restaurant grad from OSU. And so he knows how to cook, like big time cook. So we put it all on his plate. Make him do it. Good. All right, guys. Thank y'all.